Let's open a space of listening, a place of listening more from your beingness, your sense of presence. So let go of all of the stories that are being held and churning around and being reflected, and just allow yourself to relax into silence. So this is a very beautiful practice in and of itself, just to relax in silence, deepen our listening, and then whatever comes into our reference, we just simply allow it without holding on to it, without having to do anything to it. And let us open with an honoring from within of that which animates everything. Now yoga. Good, so let's move into the shoulders a bit to begin. And I would like to have something of some height behind you. So I'm going to use my large bolster. You could pile up some blankets or pillows. But what we're simply going to do is we're simply going to place the height about an arm's distance behind you. And if you choose, you can sit. We're going to bend the knees after this. So if you'd like, you can bend the left foot in and put the right foot in front of it, just a cross-legged, but not anything up on the left leg, just open, a very open position. Or as I said, you could just sit with the legs open to give the knees some time before we do have to bend them. And then simply, this is just a recommended height, obviously, so play with the height. You could even go higher if you'd like, or you could go lower. And then just based on what's accessible to you, my suggestion is going to be to interlock your fingers and then place them up on top of this bolstering. Yeah, so we're going to keep the spine relatively straight is nice, just so we have the pressure being received into the shoulders. It's one thing to just hold it there, but the muscles can fatigue. So I'd like you to find just a height that works relatively well, so we could just sit with the whole upper chest being pulled open. If you're not able to put them on a height, totally understand that. You can always just interlock the fingers behind the back, or if you have a yoga strap, or you can roll up a towel or a blanket, you can even just hold something behind you. So if you're holding a yoga strap or a blanket, then you can use this, and maybe not so much worry about placing it, but just again, just to open the shoulders. So let's do that now. So we'll just set the shoulders so they can begin to open. And see if you can really appreciate the way that we encourage slowing down in this practice. So you can really start to feel the intricacies and the subtleties of what's happening where you're applying the pressure. And so this is what's so, individual and beautiful about this practice is it doesn't really matter how much pressure. It's going to be different for everyone. But once you start to feel it, then you can continue to bring your awareness inward. You continue to hold this deeper listening. So we're trying to drop the stories and the opinions that we have about our body and about how our mind affects our body and all of that. We're just letting the stories, just put them aside, let them relax, and just listen from this very quiet inner place. And then if you would like, this is just optional. Sometimes you're just in an interesting place and it's just the way it needs to be. But if you would like to take an inhale breath and very gently and carefully bring the chin up on the inhale breath. And on the exhale breath, just drop the chin down again very carefully. So the chin is coming down towards the chest on the exhale. And just really, really slow it down. So we're never initiating movement in this practice to disturb or to manipulate, but just to enhance the exploration of this subtlety and the intricacy of the movement. So take advantage of being encouraged to move very slowly. And again, the inhalation on the chin up movement, the exhalation on the chin down. And so from here, let's relax the arms so they can come forward and, just maybe feel how that is tingling. Just the release is just as important to explore as the hold. This is just the information we're getting, the feedback we're getting from the energetic holding of the body. And then when you're ready, if you have your legs already bent, fine. I asked for the left one to be in and the right one out front. So we'll do an open square. If you would like to, often I like to just place a little bit of softness under this right foot, not to elevate it. We're not elevating it. We're just keeping the hips pretty even here. And then just allow yourself to come into this lovely forward bend. And again, slower is always encouraged so you can feel just the way your body is responding. Again, keep in mind, we're not trying to, push or press or fix anything. We're trying to feel. We're trying to feel the way the fabric has maybe contracted a bit, tightened a bit stiff or resistant or dehydrated. The languaging doesn't matter. You feel it. And this is what we're drawing ourselves into, the feeling sense of it. If you're just coming forward a bit, then you may want to put something in front to support the shoulder weight. So indeed, you can relax the head down. And let me repeat our opening. The invitation was to open a space of listening from your beingness. This is very different than a surface or a very linear kind of listening. We're not just listening for anything. We're continuing to just open the depth of spaciousness. And from this spaciousness is where we're listening. So it's a very, very relaxed, if you will, relaxed listening with no agenda, and just trusting that once we do start to um, really just soften in, it's really a softening, a relaxation, a trusting, that then the way that the body is communicating to us is very different than if it's being filtered through logic uh, and a linear way of approaching it. We're not approaching the body in a linear way. We're approaching it from a spacious, open, listening without our preconceived ideas and stories. So you can continue this throughout the practice. It's just hold open a space for your deeper listening. And if you don't find a softening after a while, it's always okay just to back out a bit or um, readjust. We don't want to be holding a hard edge in this practice. We want to let our edge be very vague and ambiguous. So we're cultivating a sense of softness and uh, acceptance, allowing, as opposed to pushing or thinking we need to make something happen. What happens happens anyway over time. We're not worried about that moment to moment and pose to pose. We're just allowing ourselves to have the experience as it's unfolding and just be very, very curious about it. You might say this is a meditation with no rules. Good. So let's come on up from here. And now let's indeed open the legs out just to give the knees again that rest position. And once you've got the legs out, we're going to go right back to where we were with the shoulders for this little interlude. So same thing here. We'll just interlock the fingers and or not. I'm just showing you just the general approach. And then we'll place them up on something if you're able to do this. Yeah, good. And then, second time around, you may need to bring the height down. You might want to bring it up a little bit. So just take a few moments to get settled here. And then let's sit here just with stillness before we go back to the movement. So becoming pristinely still allows us then to see the movement from the breathing. So there's all of this lovely micro movement, especially in this upper area of the body, because it's the lungs, the rib cage, the diaphragm. So just notice when you inhale, there's just an incredible amount of micro movement. And when you exhale, the same thing. It's this beautiful inner dance that's happening on a very, very sensitive level. So this is why we're always encouraged to hold this sense of stillness, not for some sense of discipline or just to hold it, but to, again, cultivate the nuance of our body and our breath and how it is always in this lovely dance. Good. So once again, if this is a good place for you without the movement of the neck and the head, feel free to stay here. If you would like, I'm suggesting to inhale and bring the chin up. And you may, second time, just slow it down even more. Maybe take in a little bit more air and just feel the edge and the range of motion of your inhale. And same thing on the exhalation. Really slow it down. At some point, let the weight of the skull take over, let your chin relax down, exhale a little bit more than you think you can, really empty out the bottom third of the lungs, and just whatever rhythm and motion feels most, uh, just most conducive to really feeling all of these micro tensions, all this resistance in the neck and the shoulders. It might not be so micro, but there's a lot just woven into this part of the body. Okay, good. So let's just relax the arms. Yeah. And if you did not have your legs bent for this, I think I recommended to open them to rest. This time we'll bring the right leg in. We're just going to do the other side, have something, a little padding if you prefer for your left ankle. We'll just bring it in front. Good. So the same thing. First, just relaxing the head, the shoulders, the upper spine, and feeling a lovely progression through the spine. So we're not tilting forward, more as if we're sinking in. The more you can relax the intrinsic muscles of the lower back, the more the compression will start to affect the fascial restrictions. This is just in general, but we can often feel this. So we're not stretching muscles, we're unengaging, relaxing muscles, and then all this other area starts to receive, and we are in a relatively different territory than a standard stretching practice. And so certainly, one of the things that inhibits this deeper listening And in some ways, this is, at the very core of our yoga, how we're listening to the rhythms, the patterns, the feedback of the body. So one of the things that inhibits this open, spacious listening certainly would be thoughts. Yes, the thoughts just come and they tell us there's something interesting or entertaining or important. And the thoughts have these patterns. So most of what we're thinking is habitual. So one of the things that we can do, and again, just as we're working with the body and not forcing it and accepting it, the same thing with the thoughts. I mean, they just want to think, right? The brain wants to think. It's what it does so well. But one of the things we can begin to do is start to just ask ourselves, is this thought useful? So we haven't ignored it. We haven't tried to suppress it. We haven't judged it. But for what we're doing right now, is it useful? And it may well be. It may tell you you're in too deep and you're going to hurt yourself, and please come out of this and get a drink of water. But most of them will not be useful because they'll be part of this habitual pattern that the mind has developed, these psychological grooves, if you will. So one of the things we can begin to explore is when we start to surface from this deeper open listening, we can just ask, is this thought useful? And if it's not, we've then given it a little bit of attention, but we can then let it just dissipate. And then as we do this, it helps to neutralize some of these patterns because we haven't immediately attached onto it. We haven't entangled with it or engaged it. So just something interesting, if you are in this little dance between the patterns and the habits of the thought and the open, spacious inner quiet of listening. Good. So let us relax up. And we're going to take a bit of a rest. So if you could rest on your back would be good because we're going to move into a half crescent from here. So just relax your legs out and lie down, and let's take a rest after this. Starting slow and then slowing down. And so another way to talk about these psychological thought patterns, at least in my mind, I don't know about yours, is just most of it just often sounds like blah, 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 blah. And often I'll do little surveys during the day to see how much of it is this, these not very useful blah, blah, blah thoughts. And it's usually around 99% of them are not useful. And that's a bit of a low estimate, I think, sometimes. So. And this is what I've been, I've been really inviting us to explore at this level of meditation. This meditation that has no rules is just to see your meditation, to take time and space, to back away from all this stuff, to just observe it. Nothing do we want to take without our own personal verification. So the half crescent, very simple. If most of you have done a version of this before, so you can just go right into it. I'm going to suggest we go over to the right first. So just from lying flat on the floor, and we're not going to bend the knees for this or roll to the right. We're going to begin by keeping the upper body stable and then just walking the heels over to the right as far as they'll go. Yep. So don't force it or push it. And then we'll move the upper body over. You just have to kind of walk your shoulders over. But again, we're not going to roll. So the left shoulder's on the floor, the left hip is on the floor. Then two things to add, if you would like, is you can take that left ankle and cross it over the right ankle, trying to keep that left leg straight as well. The knee may bend a little bit. And then to complete the crescent shape, you can take the left arm, put it up over your head, but make sure that the back of the hand is relaxing on the floor somewhere so the arm's just not dangling. So now from the left fingertips all the way down to the toes, we've got this nice banana shape. And the head, I kind of play with the head sometimes. Sometimes I want to just look over to the right or just keep the back of the head so the neck is straight. So be intuitive and just play with where you want to place the head for this. Just a lovely, relaxing lateral flexion of the spine and a little tugging, especially if you do cross the ankles, it'll start to tug on that left psoas a bit. So again, just try to relax. If you feel distracted by your thinking process, just ask if the thought itself is useful to what you're doing. If not, you can let it rest. So if you do have the ankles crossed, let's uncross the ankles and start to walk the feet back towards a straight spine. You'll bring the upper body over as well. And before we go to the left side, let's just bring the knees up to the chest and just very gently pull them in and relax them out a bit. I was mentioning the other day the importance of this. Certainly this feels good. This is a nice way to feel into the lower back, but also to compress into the digestive area. So if you're not prone to squatting during the day, most of us are really addicted to our chairs. So if you're not squatting regularly and getting those knees up, we want to take the time to just pull into the digestive area and really feel it. You can do one at a time, let one relax, pull one in, you can pull them both in. And just notice how you're feeling in the lower belly. We want to try to cultivate a nice loose sense of relaxation down there. We talk about our lower back and shoulders and all these areas holding tension, but the tension that's held in the gut can be very, very interesting because it just weaves into the tissues and the organs down there. We want to have a relaxed belly. Okay, good. So let's get ready for the other side of the crescent. So same thing. We'll just walk the heels over to the left this time, keeping the upper body initially stable. Then we'll work the upper body over. I just put these here so you can hear me. Yeah. So again, we're not going to let the right hip or the right shoulder roll over. Both knees are straight. If you would like, we can cross that right ankle over the left, bring the right arm up over the head and let the back of the hand relax on the floor somewhere. Yes, just lovely. And we'll just sink into this. One of the things that is just incredibly fascinating about the relationship of how your body is holding tension and our compressing into that tension. It's so incredibly fascinating because this is the movement that is really helping to keep us animated and healthy. So the compression into the system, whether it's muscular, ligamental, the organs, I was just talking about the gut, facilitates a good amount of chemical rebalancing, hormonal rebalancing, metabolic rebalancing. And in general, this overall recalibrating of the system, it's a definitive recalibration. And this is how, right down to the cells, that the cells are in this dance of negative and positive charges, and they're vibrating and they're morphing into all of these systems. So if the system is sedentary, if the system is allowed to contract, if the system is not receiving that compression, that massage effect, it compromises the whole system. It doesn't allow it to recalibrate. So wherever you feel this pressure, this is good. This is why we relax here. This is why we dwell here, why we spend time. It's not just a mechanical, I want to release that joint. The compression is reverberating throughout the fascial system into every area of the body, all of your systems, all of your organs, and again, chemical balances and hormonal balances, etc. So this is literally, it's why we feel good afterwards. We feel refreshed or whatever we feel. The system has literally been recalibrated. And then we've opened up these pathways of communication so we can continue that, that degree of well-being that we're cultivating. If you do have your ankles crossed, let's first uncross the ankles. Once again, we'll walk the heels, bring the upper body back to a straight spine, release the arm over the head, and we'll take a rest here. And just a little bit more about what I was saying, what makes it so fascinating is that because most of the time when the body is feeling misaligned or painful or just out of balance, it's that discomfort that gets our focus. It's the function of discomfort. But we're always dealing with a global system. We're always dealing with the whole system. So what makes it so interesting, what's a wonder about this human body is that it's never just physical. It's always physical and energetic. So it's energetic because of this, vibratory, conductive nature of the tissues of the cells. And it's physical when that morphs into systems and organs and joint capsules. But it's never one or the other. It's always both. So if we can start to feel that sensitivity that I'm working within a physical domain, I'm also working within an energetic domain. And then not to mention, if we add the psychology, how the psychology does affect, because it's a vibration as well, how the psychology affects the energetic and the physical domain. This is why when we're practicing, when we're going inside, we really only want that psychology, those thoughts that are useful. If they're not useful, we can then allow them to go from where they came. Although I do suspect more and more that they go to where they came from, that they come from nothing and they go to nowhere. So yeah, I wouldn't take them too seriously, these thoughts. Okay, so come on up, and I'm going to show this with a roll and the small bolster. So if you don't have a small bolster, then just do 2 rolls. So you put 2 rolls together. This would be the roll. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them close together. And if you have the roll and the bolster, we're going to sit in front of this, then you would put the bolster behind the roll. Yeah, so what we're going to try to do, whether you have 2 rolls or bolster and roll, is we're going to try to compress with the first roll into the lumbar area directly. And then this second one, will kind of pull on that upper lumbar, lower thoracic part of the body. So we'll have some compression and then a little bit of traction as well. Yeah. So you're going to want to, obviously, as always, set this up so it's an appropriate depth for yourself. This is just an example. Yes. So we sit in front of it. We're going to try to keep it in very close so it doesn't slide when we come down. So I like to hold onto it as I'm coming down to my forearms. And then I just take just a little time to snuggle in here to see how that low back is feeling. If it's good, you proceed with the upper body. And then you'll know once the upper body comes down, this is why we want to keep the feet on the floor. We get this feedback. If this is good, then let the legs relax out. If this is not good, then you want to roll it up more. You want to roll it up less. You want to fix your second roll. Sometimes you may, if you have this bolster, you may want to pull it in a little bit more. Yep, so you can pull some of the filling in. So just kind of play with it till you reach that general area I'm talking about. The buttocks is on the floor, yes, for support, and then something in the lumbar. And then the second one, well, you'll see it rides up a little bit. So it's affecting, even if you can't feel that traction I'm talking about, it's definitely happening. And then just relax the arms to the side. Make sure you're good, you feel safe. And let's just relax. And then once we begin to really trust that the asana itself, the compression itself is doing the recalibrating, that we literally have nothing to do except to relax, to hold this space of listening. Another thing that we can do, which is a very interesting part of this practice, because it's one thing to hold, impermanence as a as a philosophy or as a concept, but when we sink into our inner beingness in this way, we can really, cozy up to impermanence. We can actually begin to enjoy it because we are so close. We're so close to these physical sensations that are arising and dissipating, things in the body, tinglings and energetic movements that we cannot even locate. These thoughts, whether they're useful or not, that just come and go. So enjoy all of these clouds that are passing in your sky and smile at them. It's all, whatever it is, it's just here for a second and then it's gone. So the opportunity, the contemplation is that there's nothing to fix. So we don't have to try to fix uh, this very sacred and intelligent teacher that is impermanence. There's nothing to fix. We can just love it. We can just enjoy it. We can be wide open and present with it. I mean, it's so, beautiful, really, because it's actually life itself that is this, open-eyed meditation with no rules. We can always, funnel our intellect or awareness into a belief system, a philosophy, a religion, a science, but it's just life. It's a life that is allowing us to experience as much as we are able to and let it arise and let it pass. Notice if you've lost any contact with your breathing. And no need to change the rhythm of the breath, but just notice. Notice the, the way that the body just breathes itself. And then take this time and just simply connect with your body. So this is a very powerful invitation, because again, often when we are in a position, or really no, anytime when we are invited to connect with our body, typically we go to places of discomfort, that places that are out of alignment. But your body is your breathing. Your body is your feet and knees. Your body is your throat. Your body is your belly. So the invitation to connect with your body is to really allow your awareness to permeate the entirety of your body. And you can either feel into this, you can creatively visualize into this, you can let the self-image of the body go and just simply connect with your body, connect with your soma. And this is just a beautiful part of this yoga meditation, because this body, this is our home, and we want to connect with this home. You know, especially in this time when the way we're connecting is somewhat questionable or challenged. The primary connection is with your home, with your body. This is where you live. And so to connect with this, to sit with this, to have this somatic intimacy, this is very powerful. And then we can ask the same question of the thoughts: is the self-image that I hold, is the self-identification that I hold, is it useful? Sometimes it is, very often it's not. So a direct, visceral, somatic connection with your home, with your body, this is connection. Your feet, your belly, your throat, your skull, your breathing, your digestion. So we're going to take some time to get out of this, especially with these two roles. So, be creative and be safe with this. The first thing would be to you put your feet on the floor. And then depending on how you're feeling, you may just want to very slowly let the knees go back and forth and really massage the muscular tension. Notice how it's feeling. Yeah. You may want to elevate the hips and gently push the body back so the pelvis is on one of these rolls or bolsters, or both here, maybe, yeah. And then bring the knees up to the chest again, and again, using the motion to release the muscular tension, but also having some awareness of the digestive area. And another way to do this is if you're able to keep the ankles crossed, and if you're able to reach the outsides of the feet, yeah, so my left arm is holding my right foot, my right arm is holding my left foot on the outsides of the feet, the ankles are crossed, and you can kind of scissor them down and pull down. So this is really nice. Again, twofold, because we're compressing into the lower back with some passive movement, but also this is so nice for the digestive system. So any of these things. So just take a little time and do anything that you need to do here after this long held backward bend. before we rest. It's one of the things I have noticed about this elusive aging process, that priorities tend to change. I'm at a place in my alleged aging where three things: digestion, good sleep, and my joints. If those three things are working, I'm a happy guy. Everything else is just extra. Everything else is just sugar-free cherries on non-dairy whipped cream. That's what everything else is. Good. So let's come into a restful place. So whatever you need after that backward bend, sometimes a child is nice. So you can, the child's pose, to do a mild forward bend. You can come into a fetal position, or you could just lay flat or lay on your belly. So we'll take a good rest here because that was rather a long hold. Yes, the alleged aging process, huh? Well, this reminds me, I wanted to mention something because very often we will explore, one of our primary explorations, yes, is to back away, to feel that we are not the body, we are not the mind, we are not the perceptual experience of the world, that we are simply this open-ended consciousness, this intelligent emptiness, this pure awareness, call it what you will. So that can be sometimes a little bit confusing, because obviously we have this body, we have this mind, we live in the world. We more and more we come to recognize the power and intelligence of life as our guide and teacher. So I think it's important to rest in the realization that it's never either or, that yes, we are simply consciousness. We are pure, open, brilliant awareness. But life itself is the embodiment of that consciousness. Life is the embodiment of consciousness. So it is both. And it's so beautiful because it allows us to to not have to have that internal battle. Is it one or is it the other? That we could sit quietly and just feel the presence of the presence and the purity of consciousness. And we can also then feel the visceral sense of our sensory experience, that we're simply alive. This was the metaphor of Krishna and Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, when the battle was between a fear of no self and a fear of the false self. And so the Gita goes on to say that everything is a metaphor of that. So we don't have to live in confusion. We don't have to live in a continual needing to unwind some puzzle, that we are pure consciousness, and our life as we live it is just simply the embodiment of that consciousness. It's not two, it's not one or the other. It's one expressing itself in a myriad of ways. Very beautiful. Okay, so let's come on up and let's come into a very sleepy swan. And I have two supports here. I have a rolled up blanket and I have a large bolster. And obviously you could use some pillows for that as well. Only because this can be, depending on how your hips are feeling, this can be awkward for some of us. So I don't know. So what we're going to do, I'll just do it sideways. We're going to take the right leg and keep it out front. And it usually starts at like about a 90-degree angle to the body. And then we're going to take that left leg and just relax it back. But in yin, we don't emphasize any alignment with it. We're not trying to press the left hip down. So be careful of that. Yeah. And then if you're feeling this has an awkwardness, if those hips are just not really feeling this is too accessible, then this roll, you can lift up that right buttocks and sit on it. So this evens out the hips. And then you can use something forward, your pillows or your bolster, to support yourself coming forward. Yes. So that's if you want the support. If the support isn't needed, be aware that we don't need to keep this leg at 90 degrees to the body. We can bring it forward, but be careful, it'll stress the knee. It's more typical to pull it in and take the stress off of the knee. And then we fold over it, yeah? So the folding over it and the relaxing over it. Now, obviously, the weight of the torso pressing into the knee, right through the IT band, back down into the glutes and the piriformis. You can rest your head on the back of your hands or wherever you'd like. But do settle in if you feel like you need that support, do, because as I've been saying, the benefit of the compression to recalibrate these systems, it needs to be long held. We need to sort of ease into the fascial barriers, and then the vibrational intelligence starts to take over. In a way, we might say that the cultivation of stillness is the cultivation of wisdom, that stillness is wisdom. because from this place of stillness, we can begin to discern that the tension that we're feeling is just simply energy. The discomfort that we're feeling is simply energy. These useless thoughts that appear and disappear are just energy. Fear, confusion, just energy. So we don't do this with an intellectual focus. We don't do this from belief systems or opinions. We allow ourselves a deep and genuine relaxation into the beingness of stillness, closer than close to us, closer than our breath. And from this place, we just observe our energy. And just allowing yourself to relax below these inner dialogues, letting your body relax below the apparent discomforts and tensions. Letting yourself relax below any needs to control, to be other than exactly where you're at. Just relax.
Okay, so let's gently start to awaken this sleepy swan here. So we'll come on up. It's nice sometimes just to press the palms and ease into the lower back a little bit. So let's come out of it very carefully, as always. Good. So from here, let's bring that back leg around front. And then I'd like to give you a choice here, what we're going to do next to continue to, we're not going to do the other side of the sleeping swan just yet. So two things, you can either, as you bring that left leg around front, just bring the soles of the feet together and relax into a nice butterfly forward bend,
or you could extend the right leg out and bring that left leg up and in. So this would be the one we had around back. Yeah. And then come forward. So a nice forward bend. So either way, your choice. And becoming increasingly sensitive to listen to this inner energy. This inner energy is simply vibration. So we're not putting label or form. We're not putting preconceived stories onto this energy. We're just listening to it. We're listening to the body. This connection with the body, to connect with the body is to listen to the body.
So let's slowly emerge, whichever forward bend you were in. So come on up.
And let's take a rest here, since this was a double forward bend in a way. Yes, it was. So just take a rest, and we will take a rest. And so it's very interesting about this recalibration that I was talking about earlier, and more specifically in terms of chemical and hormonal balances. Another way that we can image this is that what we're doing with this compression and release is we're opening up pathways of aliveness. So if we start to explore that life is the embodiment of consciousness, if your physicality is embodying this consciousness, then we're opening up pathways of aliveness, we're opening up pathways of consciousness. And again, this is something that is self-evident and self-verifiable. If we sit and do nothing and allow ourselves to just contract and tighten, then we feel a certain way. Yes, there's that will reflect something in our life experience. If these pathways of aliveness, and they're all called meridians, nadis, whatever you want to call them, these neural pathways, these vibratory pathways of the body, when we open them, we're opening this sense of just allowing life to flow through us more openly and more freely. So I think it's worth questioning, always worth questioning when we separate ourselves from life in any way, any aspect of life. Just to be able to feel directly without a sense of identification or hierarchy, to feel our aliveness. This is the same aliveness, as the moon and the grass and the wind and the birds. It's just aliveness, it's just life. And we are incredibly fortunate to have it expressed through us in its own unique way. Life does not express through any two things in the same way. It's quite profound, really. Okay, so let's do the other side. We're going to start with that sleeping swan. So this time we would obviously bend this left leg. We'll relax the right leg back. And again, if you need to sit up on something under this left buttocks and you need some support here, the thing to be careful about is where you place this leg. Yeah, way in or out. You can experiment. Be careful of the knee. And then we just let the upper body weight relax over this bent left leg. And here we are. And this is actually one of the things that makes yoga so powerful, and is responsible for its longevity from its ancient roots as it was received in antiquity. Because just as the thoughts within inside your own mind can be blah blah blah, and we can ask if they are useful or not, the same exact thing, with any sharing from myself, that I'm really just holding space for us to explore. But this is not an informational based technology. Yoga first and foremost, as its foundation, says that anything that is not consistent with our firsthand experience, if held onto, at some point will become an obstacle. So we want to open these pathways of aliveness, so we become very sensitive and very nuanced, and can let anything resonate or not. And if it does not feel right, it's not right. If it feels good, it is. So at some level, the truth is just what is, and we get to lean into it and let it resonate through our highly incredible, intelligent somatic system, or not. So it's not about creating these elevated experiences of samadhi, or these mystical enlightenment experiences. It's about being sensitive to what is right in front of us, direct experience, and how that resonates or not with us, and use that as a sensitivity to embrace and enjoy and celebrate life and learn about life. Very beautiful, sensitive instruments we have in these human organisms. They are just wondrous.
So once again, let us come on up, and we'll, again, palms on the floor. It's nice just to press up a little bit and
maybe sway into the lower back. Yeah. And then we're gonna take this right leg and bring it front. Maybe open the legs for a moment, and then your choices, and you don't have to do what you did on the other side, you could do something different. But the two choices would be to bring the soles of the feet together and come forward, or this time leave the right leg out and bring the left leg in and come forward. So either one of those two, or if you even have a forward bend that you prefer, feel free. But these are just a nice sort of complement to that, that hip opener of the sleepy swan. So I suggested earlier to connect with your body, and that your body is breathing. So this is often a lovely thing to explore. It can be a very creative exploration, because very often because of habit, obviously, and because we breathe unconsciously for most of the time, it appears that just the lungs are breathing. This is not true. Your entire body is breathing. Your tissues are breathing, a tissue rhythm of breath. Each and every one of your cells are breathing. So to just feel the winds of the breath permeating and saturating the whole body. This is your body. Your breathing is your body. Good. So let's come on up from the forward bend that we were in, whichever one. And let's come into another Shavasana. So we'll take a rest here. Yes, it's very, very powerful to expand your intimacy with your breathing. And this approach is particularly compatible with that because we're not promoting breath techniques to achieve a certain goal or agenda. We're simply becoming increasingly sensitive and conscious of the breathing. So when we're working with density in the body, when we're working with contraction and pain in the body, first of all, we can feel that the breath has an emptiness to it. Yes, it's just empty, it's breath. So we can then begin to invite the breath, invite the emptiness to start to soften into any density, any discomfort, any pain. And we can do this with the physical body, but what's really interesting is we can do this with these thoughts that are not useful. So again, not to judge the thoughts and not to try to fix them, not to even try to stop them, but to simply breathe into them, breathe emptiness into a thought, which is nothing more than visualized imagery. And what happens, it starts to dissipate, it starts to fragment. So cultivating an intimacy with your breathing is very, very powerful on many levels of energy, of consciousness, of presence, of awakening. And not least to remind us that we are alive, that we have this incredible gift of being wondrously alive. So I would like to offer next up two very different things. Only because when I was doing this practice this morning, I did both of them and I couldn't decide between the two. So I thought I would just offer you them. They're quite different. The first thing would be a supported frog position. And you can use a bolster or you could use your pillows. What we do with this is we take this bolster and put it sort of in the belly area and come over it so the upper body is supported, and then we can open the legs out a bit if we're able to in this frog position to get into the hips. And what we'll do here is I'll time this with the other choice is we'll take and we'll put either the left ear or the right ear on the bolster to also twist into the neck. So you have a nice little neck twist here. Yeah, and if this is too much, obviously bring a pillow up. So supported frog pose with either the left or the right ear, and then we'll go to the other ear. So that's the first choice. The second choice would be to do a half saddle position, which would mean keeping the left leg out and bending the right knee back, and then we'll go into a backward bend. And you can either do this, just go down to the floor with no support, but if you want to explore this and your knees are open to this, if they're literally and figuratively, you can use some support. So you can just put a bolster or some pillows to support the whole torso And make sure that you're not keeping the ankle in a mimicked alignment with mine. So this just works for me, but if that ankle needs to flare out and the knee needs to open a little bit, that's fine as well. So you'll feel it when you're coming down where all that wants to go. So you can either do the half saddle with a nice support. So this puts more backward bend, less of ankle, knee, and quad and hip, but for me, quite significant. So if you didn't use the support, it would be less backward bend and more of those things. So that would be the second choice. So pick either one of those. And I'll just tell you when to switch both. The neck if you're doing supported frog, or the legs if you're doing the supported or unsupported half saddle pose. So let this be a creative visualization where as you're breathing, you're visualizing that the breath itself, the prana, the life force, is permeating every space in your body, the spaciousness of the body, the emptiness of the breath, just saturating and permeating each other. This is a lovely visualization. So if you're in the supported frog position, uh, this would be a good time to switch for the neck. Do so very, very slowly. Always slower is better. If you're in this lovely half saddle, a couple of things, you may need to come out of it to change. So if you need to do that, you can roll off to the left side and straighten that leg out. And you may need to come up to reset. If you're able to, very often what I'll do is I'll just we're going to bend the left leg back. I'm just showing it this way. You can just lean over, and if your knee has this kind of flexibility, you can just tuck it in and come right back into it. So if you need to start over, then we'll extend the right leg out, and we'll pull that left leg back and either support it or not. One of the things that continues to become very clear to me in this practice called life and this practice called yoga is that if we don't give the discomforts and the contractions and the tensions, if we don't give these things attention, we don't, in a way, if we don't go looking for them, they will come looking for us. These things don't just go away on their own. It takes a great sensitivity. It takes a willingness to understand the function of discomfort. And same thing with, suffering. Suffering is getting our attention. If we are not willing to, uh, actively open our hearts to the truth, then the truth will come looking for us. And typically it does this with a form of suffering, and that it's getting our attention. So your body and your heart and your mind and your spiritual practice all have a way of getting your attention. And what we're cultivating is that open space of listening, how to listen instead of immediately interpreting and reacting that the pain is bad, that the suffering is bad, that this is something trying to get our attention so we can open and grow and thrive and celebrate. So ultimately, this spaciousness of an asana, in addition to allowing us to recalibrate the physical components, it's really allowing us to recalibrate our sensitivity to the intelligence and the feedback of life itself. So we're going to move towards closing. So whatever your closing ritual is, you want to start to move towards that. And I'll just take a few moments to sit quietly and close our practice. And let us honor within that which animates everything. Namaste.